So, is saving money more important now than ever? In today's video, I'll uncover 4 very important reasons why you need to see why it's so important to start saving money. Frank Thomas here from Wealth Generation Strategies, and welcome. Thank you for joining me today. Today I'm going to be talking about one of my more popular topics on the channel, and I've definitely talked about this one before, but this is more of an updated video, and it's all about why is saving money more important now than ever. Believe it or not, I've talked in the past looking at lots of different external effects that could cause you to not be able to save money effectively, etc., etc. Today, I'm going to be looking at things from a more of a global point of view, and all these things I'm going to be talking about do impact each and every one of us. So I'm going to take into account the current world events and how it impacts this particular topic. I'll be looking at the reasons from the standpoint of a country to an individual like you and me. So we're going to kind of start in one place and end up in another. I personally think saving money is so critical that I do continue to analyze not only saving techniques, but outside influences that can impact our ability to save and why we even need to save more and more each and every year. Let's get started by looking at ourselves. And what we need to do is we need to learn that we need to start saving for emergencies. So saving money will provide us with this economic cushion when the crap hits the fan, because I promise you, the crap will hit the fan. You don't know when, and if you're prepared, you're still prepared. There's no other buffer to economic hardship than a cash reservoir. Think of your reservoir like a town's water reservoir. When the dry part of the year comes, as it always does, the water that's stored for the town will be there to supplement the water needs during these dry spells. Without it, a town could perish. With it, things just keep moving nicely along. I've learned about the importance of cash reservoirs by running a small business. Cash flow is always up and down in a business, and having a cash flow reservoir in a business permits me to keep extra profits in the business when the money's just coming in, and then later pay it out to bills when there isn't as much money coming in at that point in time. And wow, I'll be honest with you, it is such a great stress reliever. But what plan should you follow to create your cash reservoir? It's very simple, actually. Start small. Start by saving a solid $1,000 that can help you avoid using debt to cover small incidents that can and will occur. Something small like, your alternator or your battery goes on your car. It's not going to cover the big things, but it's definitely going to cover the small things. And it's only designed to cover these shortfalls in your finances within a pay period. And it could be that you've overspent or something came up or something happened. It's there for that too. So that's why you save this first $1,000. You'll eventually want to save 6 months of your expenses. Wow, how the heck can you do that? Well, a little bit, one paycheck at a time. Once you start to save, saving becomes easier, and anybody can do that, including you. I started out by saving a couple $100 when I could, every paycheck, dunk, dunk, dunk. And before I knew it, I'd saved up a solid $3,000. Because you'll discover too, when you start to save, it becomes easier, and you start to save more. And as you can guess, the benefit is you start to exercise your pay yourself first muscle. Believe it or not, this is a muscle that doctors don't talk about, and it's a really important one. And that's the pay yourself first muscle. And doing this will greatly benefit you in the future by exercising. So having 6 months expenses saved is to cover you if you find yourself out of work or you've had a really big emergency. Do you think you could be out of work for 6 months? I didn't think I would, and it happened to me this year. So it can happen to you too. Employers have become very fickle, and it's become much harder to find great employment to provide income to cover your expenses. You don't just you need this financial buffer to protect you and give you time to find that next great gig. So start to plan your 6-month expense fund. And again, it's the same as saving $1,000 little by little each and every month. The second point, geopolitical instability. So what is geopolitical instability? Frank, did you make that word up? Very possibly, but it fits. Just pop open YouTube or go to your favorite news feed and listen. Countries are warring against one another, and that instability drives inflation. This can also cause shrinking opportunities for business in your country. So regardless of one country throwing bombs at another or tariffs, the latter has much less material damage, but both affect the economy in a negative way. Whenever a company or a country cannot increase its sales and profits, that company begins to die. Thus, as we're witnessing right now, countries are slowly dying. Another effect is the country's debt load and its general bank rate. With turmoil caused by COVID, we witnessed in Canada, we had an interest rate increase of 0.25% in 2020 to 5% in 2023. Holy smokes, I honestly thought an interest rate hike like this in such a short period of time would have collapsed Canada's economy, and to a certain degree it has. Everything is connected and it eventually impacts you and me. But what happens if the bank rate goes to 15%? Can it? It certainly can. In 1981, the bank rate jumped to almost 18% in Canada. I remember that people were handing their keys to their home to banks because they could not afford to pay the mortgage, nor could they sell their home for enough to cover the cost of their mortgage. They were in a no-win scenario. But this leads us into a factor that impacts us directly, and I've talked about it a little bit already, and that is inflation. With so many things we've already talked about in this video, this is the one thing that is always impacted is the rate of inflation. Inflation is all about measuring how much the cost of living goes up in general on a yearly basis. Historically, we've seen inflation rates of about 2.5 to 3% in North America per year. But what happens if inflation is driven up to 10%? Again, can it happen? It certainly can. With economic uncertainty, it doesn't take much to raise the price of goods. Inflation can be induced in many ways, as well as what I like to call artificial inflation. Most inflation happens because the supply of goods dwindles while the demand is rising. This causes the price of those goods to go up in price based upon the elements of supply and demand. But applying tariffs or other artificial stimulus like this have occurred in the past as well. In the 70s, there was a perceived oil shortage, which caused the oil prices to rise dramatically, and anything attached to oil rose as well. Whether or not there was an oil shortage, fear in the marketplace caused artificial demand and caused prices to rise. So there's lots of different ways for inflation to occur. A good example is of the latest inflation, and this is all around tariffs, is my wife picked up a small bag of grapes when she got to the till, they rang up at almost $15. Now, it wasn't very much. Now, you have to remember that those same grapes were less than $5 not that long ago. We've witnessed the same raise in many areas. There's another powerful force that's influencing inflation, but before we get to it, if you're enjoying this video, give it a like, and if you want to hear more from this guy right here, be sure to subscribe. Thank you so much. Number 4, governmental spending. And this is a big one that will impact us and our future generations. And that's why this is so darn scary. When governments are spending more than they get in income, it's like building a financial house of cards. They will eventually tumble down. Why? When the government doesn't have a balanced budget, or like in Canada right now, no budget. It's like you and me not having a budget. It becomes very easy to spend more than what's coming in. Before long, we need to use debt to cover our current day spending. Now, this is what's occurring in the government. Debt, more debt. And debt is not our friend. And even for a country, even more so. Government debt is shouldered by its citizens in the long run. Debt has to be serviced with, which means each and every month there is interest on that debt. Have you ever bought a government bond? Well, you've just bought some of the government's debt, and you get paid an interest on that debt. That interest has to come from somewhere. Right now, I can easily say that each person in Canada and the United States are responsible for between $50,000 and $100,000 worth of debt with interest payments in around $2,000 to $3,500 per year. And it's got to come from somewhere, like I said, but where does it come from? Higher taxes. Yes, we are servicing that debt each time we get paid our paychecks. Some of our payroll taxes are used to cover the mounting debt our countries are incurring. This again reduces how much we have to spend and save from each payday we receive. So let's not be all negative here, because we do have a solution. And that solution is really easy. There's only one solution that we can use to protect ourselves from all of the above. This is creating a cash reservoir that's large enough that we can draw from regardless of our need, and we don't deplete its overall balance. And it can still grow in value to counteract inflation over time. Now, you can decide not to save, but you'll find yourself in the situation of always having to work until that day you die. And that's not a particularly great solution in my personal opinion. Or you can depend on the government or your family to help pay your bills. Again, this is probably an even worse situation to endure. So your choices are, if you decide not to save, is to be broke and or die broke. So really, it's your choice. This is why I say saving money is more important now than ever. Start that savings fund, as I mentioned in the first point. Also, with all the external pressures trying to take our money from us, we need to learn to live below our means and learn to pay ourselves first. With a healthy cash reservoir in place, things can look very different. Even with $500,000, $500,000 tucked away, and it's gleaning a 10% interest rate, this can provide close to $50,000 in cash each and every year, or roughly around $4,160 a month. With minimal government pensions, a true retirement starts to become very possible. Without it, if you stop working for one reason or another, and you're not trying to keep things in place with only $2,000 to $3,000 in government pensions per month, it's not going to be easy in today's economy. I would dare say it's darned impossible. So let's make a plan. And the number one action we can take to protect ourselves is to save. I hear a lot of influencers say that saving is important. Don't be fooled by this. You need to learn to save and know how to save in the long run. It all starts with you learning one vital skill, and that's learning how to pay yourself first. Yes, I've mentioned it earlier in the video, but I'm going to come back to that. I think this is so important. I've created a video that is dedicated to this one very topic that extensively talks on how you can learn this skill, which should be showing up on the screen right now. So if you're interested, be sure to check it out. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Frank Thomas, and I wish you the very best when it comes to saving money.